Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to another fantastic show of
Ramadan with the Rafis.
Perfect. So Alhamdulillah, we are back with another show for all of you ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls who have been tuning in to Ramadan TV. Alhamdulillah, we've had quite a few shows so far. They've all been quite similar, but some things have been different as well, and inshallah we hope that they've been really educational for all of you as well. So alhamdulillah, you've not had to leave your own homes, and you're getting so much knowledge, so much new information, and inshallah enjoying yourself at the same time. So we hope inshallah that your Ramadan so far is going well, and we hope inshallah and pray that all of you are safe as well. Before we begin, I think in case people haven't tuned into our previous shows, it's probably good that we introduce ourselves a little bit. For the guys who've been following us since our first show, they probably can rattle our names off by now. But inshallah, for the boys and girls who might be tuning in a bit later, I think it's important for us to introduce ourselves. So I think I'll start. My name is Alina, and inshallah I will be the host for today. And I have in the studio with me three of my sisters, all of my sisters. Inshallah, they will all introduce themselves.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, my name is Fatima.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, my name is Amina.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Aisha.
Perfect. So usually when we start our show, I kind of ask, or whoever's hosting asks all of us like some question about generally how we are, how Ramadan is going. So first and foremost, I have got a question here for you guys, but before I get to that, how are you guys feeling anyway? How is Ramadan going so far?
I feel like it's going okay. The first few days are always, for me, they're always easier. But I hope inshallah it stays like that the whole month.
Inshallah. What about you guys?
I'm a bit like that as well. It's always easier at the start, so I'm still on I'm finding it easy. I'm just kind of floating past it. So inshallah, like Fatima said, that it'll be easy the whole way through.
Inshallah.
Yeah, I'm feeling good, excited, hyped up as I usually am.
Usually, yep. Fantastic. Okay, so one thing that I thought would be quite nice for us to use to introduce our show today, or to start our show today, is that we spoke a little bit about sunnahs, so like everyday sunnahs, and obviously like we said before as well, we didn't pluck them out of like thin air. They all come from the example of the Prophet Sallallahu, Alayhi, Sallam. So what I want to ask you guys is, and I think this will be quite interesting, I hope inshallah when we get to the live shows as well that the boys and girls can have a think about this, and inshallah let us know what they think as well. So my question to you guys today is, can you please tell me one characteristic of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that you really love, that you really like, and inshallah you want to try and bring into your own life? Anyone want to start?
Yeah, I think I'll start off. I was trying to think of one earlier, and I was thinking, usually I think of myself as quite a patient person, and someone that I can always I don't get too angry too quickly, and I can quite handle things quite well and with quite a bit of patience. But then I was thinking, there's always something that you can improve on. So even though I think that I was really, really patient, and I was like, let's look at the Prophet ﷺ, let's see how patient he was. And I remember reading the story of how he had that neighbour who would always throw rubbish on him.
Yeah.
Sallallahu Alayhi Wasallam. And I was thinking, if someone was to do that to me, I know I say I have a lot of patience, but I don't think that if someone was throwing rubbish on me every single day, that I would be able to hold myself back.
To be honest, I think after day 2, I'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, if it happened
Banging
that
on
second.
our front door being like, excuse me, who do you think
Yeah,
you are?
and
What are you doing?
I always think I've got really good patience, but then when I look at this story, I think if that was to happen to me one time, I think I would get really, really angry. And I don't, I always think, I've always thought of myself as having great patience, but there's always something that you can improve on, which I think is, when you look at the Prophet ﷺ, you can see that there's always some way to better yourself, even if you think you are very, very good at something. So that was mine.
Perfect. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Anyone else? Fatima?
I kind of think I'm totally opposite to Aisha. I think I do get angry quite quickly. I think you guys can be my witness.
I can agree.
But my favourite kind of characteristic of the Prophet Sallallahu is how well he controls his anger. Exactly what you just said. Especially if you have siblings, and especially in Ramadan when you don't eat the whole day, you don't drink the whole day, you're angry, you're tired, you're hungry, you're thirsty. I should be able to control my anger. So if you say something that annoys me, I'm not going to say something back. I should know that if you don't say something back, the angels give a good
reply on your behalf.
fire comeback.
Yeah.
So just stay quiet, bite your tongue, fast with your tongue, and don't say anything you'll regret later.
Just in link to that, can anyone remember a saying of the Prophet ﷺ to do with like not talking in certain situations?
Oh, is it the hadith that you should speak good or keep silent?
Perfect, yep, speak good or keep silent. And that's something that I think is very important, especially in Ramadan, because we need to make sure, like we said in one of our previous shows as well, that fasting isn't just of what we put in our mouths or what we eat, what we drink, but we fast with our entire bodies, and we need to learn how to fast with our tongues. So one thing that the Prophet ﷺ told us is to either speak good or just keep quiet. So say if you're going to speak, make sure it's something good, or just don't speak at all. So alhamdulillah, fantastic. Can I go next?
Yeah, I think we should.
Just want to jump in there before someone steals it, because they have a tendency to like read my mind and steal what I'm going to say. So I want to just get in there and make sure I get my point. So the characteristic that I really love about the Prophet Sallallahu, Alayhi, and that I hope inshallah I can bring into my own life as well, is the fact that the Prophet ﷺ never held any grudges. So we're talking about patience, we're talking about anger, all of these things like are related to this, because the Prophet ﷺ had immense patience. The Prophet ﷺ had like the best control of his anger, and he also then had a very, very forgiving side as well. So if anyone did wrong him or call him names, which a lot of people did at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and we know as well from the Sunnah, from the stories of the Sunnah, when Prophet ﷺ went to the people of Taif, and how not only did they verbally abuse the Prophet ﷺ, but they even physically abused the Prophet ﷺ. And even at that point, when the angels came and said that we've been sent by Allah, give us the command, O Prophet, and we can destroy these people. And even at that point, when the Prophet ﷺ was essentially drenched in his own blood, even at that point, the Prophet ﷺ said, no, I don't want to take any revenge. And that is so inspirational to me, because I think like sometimes even if Fatima says something like nasty to me, even like not nasty but something like, so says something back, so has like a fly comment, I want to make sure that she's not had the last word, or like if someone has said something to me in the past, it'll always be kind of in my mind even when I speak to that person again. So I want to inshallah try and follow the Prophet ﷺ's example and make sure inshallah that I don't hold any grudges.
I think that's a very, very good one, to be fair. Yeah.
Thank you.
So should we move on to talking about our topic today?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. So
we both took a breath at the same time, as if we were going to talk at the same time.
Just giving each other away there. You can introduce the topic.
Yeah, okay. So we're in our second week of Ramadan now, and if you were with us the first week, you would know that we were talking about our everyday sunnahs. So these were just things that you could do every day that you might not even realise is something the Prophet ﷺ used to do. And it's really, really good, as we know, because there's so many benefits, scientific and spiritual, and like blessings that we can get for following what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. But this week we're going to change it up a little bit, and we're our topic, our like running theme, as you could say, throughout the week would be lessons from the Prophet stories. That's what I was trying to say. I get tongue twisted sometimes when I'm trying to talk. So that I feel is a very important topic, and it's one that sometimes you will like know the story of a prophet, but you won't actually know what lessons you can get from it or what that actually teaches you, because you might get a wee bit confused.
Like, you're taught the story at a very young age,
and
you forget like, or you remember certain parts and you forget other parts. So inshallah, I think this will be a good time for the boys and girls. Probably know all of these stories, like you probably knew all of the sunnahs as well, but it'll be a good chance inshallah for us all to revise, because even when we're preparing our shows, like it's a lot of revision for us as well, inshallah. So I think together we can go through these stories and not only revise what the stories are and what happened in the stories, but inshallah try and see what like gems of wisdom we can pick out of the stories as well. Because one thing that I think is quite important for the boys and girls to know as well is that even like when I'm in class and I'm teaching my class, one thing that I always try to emphasise to my class is like, why are we doing what we're doing? So no matter what topic we're studying, even like now for example, and we have on our online lessons, so even just now we're looking more into Ramadan and we're talking about things like taqwa. And one thing that I always make sure that I ask the girls And inshallah, they can ask me as well, is like, why are we going over this topic? Like, it's Ramadan, why are we learning about Ramadan? Or why are we learning about taqwa, things like that. So the reason why we're learning about or going over the Prophet stories or looking at the lessons that we can take from the Prophet stories is because one thing's very important about the Quran. So we know, mashallah, the Quran is very, very important to all Muslims. But the one thing that's very, very important about the Quran is that every single little letter, every single word, every single ayah, every sentence has been cherry picked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be a part of the Quran. So there's no part of the Quran where we could say like, na'udhu billah, this isn't relevant or this doesn't make sense or this doesn't apply to us. Every single part of the Quran is very, very relevant. And we find a lot of stories in the Quran as well. So very like the Bible or even like some other religious scriptures as well, a lot of them are told around stories. So we find a lot of stories in the Quran as well. And inshallah, that is where we're going to take our Prophet stories as well. So can anyone tell me, what Prophet are we talking about today?
Okay, so today's prophet, which I know isn't one of Amna's favourites, is the story of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam.
MashaAllah, Ayyub alayhi salam. MashaAllah, perfect, I think, story to start off our topic with, inshallah. So who would like to start?
Do you want me to? I'll just jump in and start then. So, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam as being a very righteous servant of Allah. So righteous just means that he would always do what he was told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would always obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do everything to the best of his ability, everything that he could do. And the story of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam shows him undergoing a very hard test for a very long time of his life. But it doesn't start off like that. At the start, Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, he was very wealthy. He had a lot of things. He had a nice house. He was, at that time, if you had a lot of cattle, like cows, if you owned a lot of farm animals, then you were quite wealthy and you're quite rich. And Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam had all these things. He was very wealthy. He had lots of children. He was having a good life, basically, and he was very, very thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that he had. And Ayyub alayhi salam and his wife Rahma, they lived a very happy life together, and all their children had a very good life growing up. They had everything they could ever ask for. And
I think another thing that's quite important or quite interesting about Ayyub alayhi salam is that sometimes we find, like nowadays, if someone's quite wealthy or someone's doing quite well, that they become quite arrogant or they begin to have quite a big ego. Whereas Ayyub alayhi salam was blessed with so many blessings, like Aisha has just said, but never did Ayyub alayhi salam let that get to his head or make him big-headed. And one thing that I really admire about Ayyub alayhi salam is that he would always invite those who are less fortunate, so any orphans or anyone who is going through any spell of poverty for any reason, he would always invite them to come and eat with him. And sometimes that's something we don't see quite often. And in Ramadan, people try to make an extra effort, but I think out with Ramadan as well, sometimes we forget people who are poor or don't have as much. But Ayyub alayhi salam would make it a point to invite people to eat with him, and we know also that that's a sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu, Alayhi as well, that he never used to eat alone. So I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, it was very, very good. And he was always, the main thing was that he was always thankful. He never took it for granted that he had all this wealth. He never took it for granted that he had so much and he was so wealthy. He always made it a point in his life to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this really, really, really annoyed Shaitan. He became very, very annoyed about this, because he was thinking that, why is this Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, why is he so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why is he so thankful all the time? He's been really good, and that annoyed Shaitan.
That's the thing, because the Shaitan's mission is the complete opposite. Like, if you intend to pray salah, the Shaitan's mission is to make sure you don't pray that salah. Or if you intend to do something nice for your mum, for example, the Shaitan's whole agenda at that point becomes to make you stop doing whatever good it is you're going to do. So the Shaitan was actually jealous.
Yeah, exactly.
And annoyed.
Exactly, and the exact same thing as you were talking about salah, the exact same thing happened to Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, because Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam would never miss his prayers. He would always read them on time because he was making it a point to be thankful. And this is what annoyed the Shaitan so much, and he tried so many times, Shaitan, to stop him from reading it, to make him read it late, to make him not concentrate during salah, but he was never successful. Never once. Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was always made it a point to read his salah properly. and that again made Shaitan even angrier. So does someone want to tell us what happened when he got even angrier?
So we know obviously Shaitan doesn't like anyone doing good, and then obviously this is a prophet of Allah who keeps doing good. So then what happened then after this point?
So then Shaitan went up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and told him a little lie, and he said that even though Ayyub alayhi salam is so thankful, he prays all his salahs, he makes dua, he does dhikr, but he doesn't really mean it.
So was he trying to say that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam wasn't being sincere?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Wow. So he made this claim to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, yeah, he's doing all this, but like he doesn't actually mean it. He's just doing it for show.
And I think he also thought that obviously Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam is going to pray all the time, like
Because of everything that he has.
Yeah, he has so much, so it's going to be easy for him anyway.
But
Like he
we
has
all
so much
know
stuff.
that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows our intentions, knows if we mean it or not. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to show Shaitan that he's not just praising me because of all the things I've given him.
Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could see that Ayyub alayhi salam had a sincere heart. So what happened then at this point? Because this is beginning to get a bit juicy. So what happened at this point?
So at this point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he already knew that Ayyub alayhi salam, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the state of our hearts, and he already knew that Ayyub alayhi salam was this righteous person who wouldn't want to do anything bad.
Yeah.
So to prove Shaitan wrong, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Shaitan, he said to him, he was like, if you want to go and annoy Ayyub alayhi salam and ruin the things that he has to see if he's still a pious servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him permission to do that. So he said to Shaitan, if you want to go and do that, just so you can see that he is a pious slave and that he is a pious person to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you can go and do that and you can see what will happen.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave permission to Shaitan to basically cause havoc in Ayyub alayhi salam's life. So what kind of things then did the Shaitan destroy?
So obviously, like as we said before, Shaitan's mission is to make things bad, make things worse.
Yep.
So he was so happy when he heard Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say this.
He probably felt as though he's got superpowers now. He's
Exactly.
Like, yes.
So he thought, I can finally like show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what I've been talking about. I can finally
I can prove
like
my point.
not bring Ayyub alayhi salam to the wrong path, which obviously doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. So Ayyub alayhi salam, like we said, was blessed with so many things: health, wealth, family. He was literally thriving in the best way possible at that time. And like we've heard, Shaitan got very, very angry about this, approached Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and actually doubted the sincerity of Ayyub alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Shaitan, right, okay, if that's what you think, you can destroy whatever you want from his life. Take away some of these blessings if you want to, and we'll see what happens. So what was the first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away?
Yeah, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let Shaitan. So the Shaitan destroyed his cattle, as we were saying that if you had farm animals at that time, that means you were really wealthy. So Shaitan destroyed them, he destroyed their house, he destroyed basically every single thing Prophet Ayyub alayhi
So
salam
one by one, every single thing was destroyed.
Exactly, and Prophet Ayyub
Can you
alayhi
imagine
salam,
if you had all of this stuff and one by one it all got taken away?
Yeah,
SubhanAllah,
exactly.
that's been really tough for
and
him.
Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was left with absolutely nothing. But the Prophet Ayyub, that didn't take anything away from Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam's faith. He was still very strong in his faith, and he said that what Allah has taken away belongs to him. I was only a caretaker of his possessions.
SubhanAllah.
So he was saying that even though I had all this stuff, I knew it wasn't mine. I only had all this stuff because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to me, and he was just looking after it. Well, he called himself the caretaker because obviously he didn't own it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it to him,
But
and
I
he
think
was
that's
aware
so
of that.
important as well, because a lot of the time we forget that all the things that we're blessed with and all the things that we get, for example, for our birthdays or for you know for Eid, the gifts that we get is not actually ours. And a lot of the time we say, oh no, you can't have this because it's mine. You can't use
wear
this
that,
because it's
that's my
mine.
scarf. You can't wear that.
Yeah.
That's my
Exactly, but we look at
this.
this and he said that, well, everything that I've owned is not actually mine, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's. And we always forget to remember that as well in our lives.
But sadly after this, like of course when Shaitan heard Ayyub alayhi salam say that, he got even more angrier. Like how was he still thankful for everything, how is he still praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So he went up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So he went back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's up to mischief, isn't he?
He does not give up. Shaitan does not give up. And we know that as well from our lives as well. Like sometimes if we're going to, like if we intend to pray, for example, and at first Shaitan might say, oh, it's okay, like just continue watching the show a bit longer. And then if you actually manage to get the courage to get up, he might say, oh, it's okay, like do this before you do your wudu, you can come back and do your wudu. And then by that point, like he delays it, and you might actually end up missing your prayer. So he does not give up, so that means we should not give up either, boys and girls.
So Shaitan kind of wanted to go to the extreme, and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can you give me permission to make Ayyub alayhi salam's body weaker, give him a disease, make his bones weak, something like that, just to take everything else away from him.
So like the one thing that he basically had left, like his health and his kind of his own body, Shaitan even wanted to...
He wanted to see how far it can go.
And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was righteous, and he knew that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam wasn't going to stray, so he gave Shaitan permission. And then Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam came down with a very harsh illness, and he was very ill for a very, very long time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was just doing this because he knew that Ayyub alayhi salam, he just wanted to prove Shaitan wrong, basically. And he knew that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam wasn't going to just throw in the towel and be like, okay, I'm not going to worship anymore. Like, he knew that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was very firm in his faith, which is very, very good. That even after all his health was being taken away from him, he was still very, very strong in his faith, which I thought was really good.
And I think sometimes like that's something that we definitely need to take inspiration from, because sometimes like we expect that like we've made dua, like for example I've made dua for something today, and if it doesn't happen by the end of today, we're like, oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't listen to my duas, it didn't happen, it doesn't work. Like we begin to complain like as soon as something doesn't go our way. But look at the tests that Ayyub alayhi salam had to go through, one thing after another. Literally it was bang, bang, bang. Every blessing that he had,
even on top of his health being taken away, his family was taken away from him as well. Like all of his children were taken away from him.
And we know, like, for example, in this lockdown situation, like, we say, like, oh, we're stuck at home. We're not stuck at home, we're safe at home. But we're stuck at home, at least with our families.
Exactly,
yeah,
with health.
We have good health, inshallah, and we are blessed with people to talk to and communicate with, and we have our
We have a lot of people to talk to.
Exactly, but even if, like, that was, like, another thing that probably pulled at Ayyub alayhi salam's heartstrings even more. His family was taken away from him as well, his children and his wife, on top of everything else. Because sometimes even if you're going through a really hard time, if you've got your family, you still feel like you've got that extra support. But then that shows us that Ayyub alayhi salam had his entire trust and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, regardless of his wealth, his health, his family, they were all blessings, but he knew deep down that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is where it's at, basically. Like, that is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everything, and if you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah you'll have everything as well.
So at this point, Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was all alone, and he was very, very ill. And he was by himself, and he couldn't really take care of himself, he was very weak. So he got to the point, and Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam made a very sincere dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking for his mercy and asking for him to be better, to help him in his situation, because he was very, very ill. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was such a righteous slave to him, answered his duas. And the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped heal Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam is he told Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam to strike his foot, so basically just to like sort of stomp on the ground a little bit, and then a big river, kind of like a river, you could say, of water appeared. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam that you should have a bath in this water, and inshallah you'll get cured. And the Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam done what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to do, and he took a bath in this river, and he was cured from his illness, which was really, really good. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped him to get back to the way he was.
Subhanallah. And this is the thing, like, see, just when you said about kind of stomping your foot on the ground and water came out, it reminded me of another story attributed with another prophet. Can anyone remember?
Is it with the Zamzam water?
Yeah, that's how we get Zamzam. Like, and inshallah we'll talk a bit about Prophet Ibrahim and Ismail inshallah later on. That's another one of our stories, yeah. But that's exactly what that reminded me of, and we know the blessings, mashallah, of Zamzam water, and inshallah the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then chose to cure this Ayyub alayhi salam of this illness was through water as well. And nowadays, I think in this whole lockdown pandemic scenario, we're appreciating water a lot more as well, and we can see the importance of water as well and how much of a blessing water is as well.
But I also think it's amazing the way if Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam had taken a bath in any other water, it wouldn't have cured him. Yeah. But when he asked for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help with what he needed, subhanallah, the water managed to heal all of his problems inside.
That's the thing, you need Allah's permission.
That shows how quickly like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take your things away and give them to you back. Like if you just ask for forgiveness, if you make dua to him, it can.
Exactly. So obviously Ayyub alayhi salam knew he had that deep faith that he knew everything that he had wasn't actually his, first and foremost, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only thing you really need in this life and in the next life as well. And he is a perfect example of how someone can be tested. And we know that during this pandemic, a lot of people will be tested in different ways. Some people probably through their health. And inshallah, we hope if anyone is going through that, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you with the best shifa, inshallah, ameen. But other people will also be tested through their wealth, because we know like businesses have closed down, people can't go out in the same way, and we're almost kind of going through similar things as what Ayyub alayhi salam went through. So Ayyub alayhi salam was obviously one person, but we are going through this as like a global community, as like humanity as a whole basically. So I think it's really important, and this is why I always say that everything in the Quran is always relevant. Like if we had recorded this program like a few months ago, we probably wouldn't even know that we were going to be in this pandemic, and we might have taken something else from this story. But now that we're in this pandemic and we're seeing all these things right before our own eyes, we're appreciating how hard this test must have been for the Prophet Ayyub, and all of these like gems of wisdom that we can take from his story as well. So has anyone then got anything that you can the boys and girls can take from the story? So there's a lot of lessons, but any sort of like take home points that the boys and girls can use?
One of them that I sort of thought of was that anything bad that happens in your life, you shouldn't just be like, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why'd you do this to me? You should be thankful in every situation, because if something bad happens, there's always a good reason behind it, because like there's an ayah in the Quran, like Allah does not burden a soul beyond it can bear. So if you've given a trial or a test, you should just try and understand it and not like blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And that's a really important ayah as well, because no matter how hard your test is, you need to remember that if your test is really hard, that's only because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that you're strong enough to get through it. And I think that can help a lot of people get through a lot of very, very hard times, yeah?
I think the fact that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam was always thankful for everything that he had, even when everything was taken away from him, he was never annoyed about it. He was never getting overly angry or whatever. He would always thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what he had, and he knew that he lived a really good life even before his illness, before everything got taken away. He was always thankful to Allah that he had such a good life before, even when he wasn't having a good time as in the present.
And one thing actually, obviously because we have limited time on the show, we can't go through the entire story in as much detail as we'd like to, but one thing that I remembered about the story was that when Ayyub alayhi salam, at the start when he began to fall ill, and the shaitan actually approached his wife and said why, if your husband is this prophet of Allah, why don't you ask Allah to get rid of this illness? And Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam's wife was very patient as well, but sometimes, shaitan's whispers can get to you and you do begin to believe what the shaitan says. So she did actually ask Ayyub alayhi salam, why can't you just make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get rid of all of this hardship that we're going through. And the thing that Ayyub alayhi salam said, like, I remember the first time I heard it and it literally almost brought me to tears, was the fact that Ayyub alayhi salam said to his wife that we have lived through so many years of happiness and joy and good health, and we had everything. And now, for this short time, we're going through this trial. Like, he actually said, I feel embarrassed to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get rid of this, because before this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed us with so much for so long. And I think that's such a, like, again, inspiring way to look at a situation. And I think, again, we can take that for this whole pandemic situation as well. Like, if you think about it, for a lot of us, like, doesn't matter how old you are, this is the first time we've seen a global pandemic like this, like a global virus like this. And think of all the years that, alhamdulillah, we lived in peace and happiness, and we should kind of look at that before we start to get complacent, and inshallah thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything we had and everything we still do have. But inshallah, I think we're going to need to cut it there, guys, and inshallah we are now going for a short break. So boys and girls, please don't go anywhere. Please do come back, because we've got, inshallah, lots of fun and lots of information coming to you in the second half of the show as well. But for just now, small ad break. Inshallah we'll be back very shortly. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Ramadan with the Rafis. Now boys and girls, you've come at a perfect time and you've strolled right in to Dr. Dean's spiritual surgery. Now usually I get a little bit of an introduction, but I think my team knew how busy I was today. And they thought, do you know what, Dr. Dean, get right in there, get straight in, because you've got a lot of patients to see today and we need to get moving. So thank you for that, guys, mashallah. So,
we're always thinking ahead.
You're always thinking ahead. Always thinking about me, mashallah. So blessed. Okay, so alhamdulillah, today, like every other day so far in Ramadan, my clinic has been so busy. Me and Fatima have been rushed off our feet since the minute we wake up to the minute we go to sleep, and we hardly get any sleep as it is. So every day we're getting more and more spiritual aches and pains. And we said in one of the previous shows as well that when it comes to Ramadan, people become a lot more aware of their spiritual self, because throughout the year you kind of forget sometimes that you have a spiritual side to you. You just think about your physical side, like these are my hands, these are my feet, like things like that, but we don't think about like your heart or the state of your heart or the spiritual struggles you might be going through. So you might throughout the year like put a cover over it and try to hide it, but in Ramadan that is when these things come out, because this is the time where we're trying to gain taqwa and we're trying to build taqwa, we're trying to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is when all these things come back into light. So Fatima, can you tell us a little bit about our patient today and what troubles they're going through?
Okay, so we have a young girl and she's saying that I've seen this problem quite a lot and I suffer from this a little bit.
Okay.
She says that like throughout the day in Ramadan she's really tired and she's not motivated to do that extra good deed, to read all 5 salahs, read Quran, and she's just asking for a bit of help with that, and I think I need some help with that as well.
No, well, I think this is something that we can all, like, even me as Dr. Dean, like, if I'm giving this advice, that doesn't mean that I've nailed all these things and I'm perfect at all of these things. We're all going through this journey together, and especially with Ramadan and lockdown, like, this is something we've never seen before, so we're all going through all of this together. So I think this is a fantastic question. And I don't think that it's just related to this young lady who's called us up today. I think this is something that it relates to everyone, and everyone has times where they feel like this. So sometimes, like, when you start Ramadan, you're full of energy and you think like every day is just every day is easy, like I don't really feel my fast, alhamdulillah. But then as you get through Ramadan, you do begin to feel like a dip in your energy, you begin to feel that slump. So first things first, if you are feeling like that, or even if you've not felt like that yet, if you do feel like that in the future, the first thing that you need to remember is you do not panic, okay? Because this is very natural, right? This is natural for our bodies to feel like this. And sometimes what our physical bodies are feeling, our emotional self feels it as well, but sometimes you can't understand why that link is there. So a lot of the time in Ramadan, like our sleeping patterns change because we don't normally wake up before daybreak and have something to eat, and we don't normally pray extra salahs or even pray like tarawih, for example, throughout the year. So it's this like 1 month where we are pushing ourselves. So sometimes we're pushing ourselves physically, but we need to make sure that we're not just pushing ourselves physically, that we're pushing ourselves spiritually as well. So I think the first thing that I'd like to prescribe to this patient, and I think it's something that we can all bear in mind during Ramadan, is that sometimes the reason why we don't have a lot of motivation or we feel like we can't be bothered is because we don't have a plan for the day. So I think it's important for this young girl, or for anyone who's going through these symptoms, is to make sure that you start the day, inshallah, start the day early as you can, and make a list of everything that you want to have done that day. So everything that you want to achieve that day. Because sometimes when we're going through our day, we forget some of the things that we want to do. But one thing when you're making this list that's very important is that you make sure whatever you write is in small and manageable chunks. So don't give yourself a big task that you know for a fact you can't do in one day, or you can't do entirely because you might be tired because you're fasting.
Yeah, I know I used to do that as well. I know, but before, it's not really like in Ramadan, but before, like when I used to have like an essay due, or like I used to have like lots of bits of work due, I used to just say, today I need to do this whole essay and have to just write it and get it done. But then I felt like whenever I was doing it, I was like, oh, I've still got so much left. I've only got the intro done. I still have to do this many paragraphs. I still need to do this many conclusions. And that never used to help me. But then, do you know, you were saying about doing manageable chunks. And then when I started doing it as, oh, if I'll have the intro and first paragraph done today, then I can maybe do this third and fourth paragraph tomorrow, and then maybe do the conclusion the next day, and I'll have it done by Friday when it's due.
Exactly.
And that helped me so much. So I think they could do the same thing, but with, as you were saying, with this patient.
Yep, perfect. That's exactly what I meant. And another thing to appreciate in Ramadan as well is that when we feel that slump of energy, that's natural. So one thing to do is don't try to fight it off too much. So if you are tired, which we all will be, take that time in your day to have a break. So if you want to have a little nap, if you want to just sit for a little while just in your room in quiet, or if you want to just take some time to chill for a bit, like that's okay, because we need to remember we need to look after our bodies as well, because that's part of the whole package of Ramadan as well. So first things first on this prescription is to make sure that you make a list of everything that you want to do in the day. Make sure it's small and manageable though, so that inshallah you can achieve it. Number 2, allow yourself to have breaks. It's okay to have breaks. No matter how many things you need to do in the day, if you are fully rested, inshallah you will be able to achieve them. The third thing that we've spoken about quite a few times in my surgery, and especially in Ramadan as well, is the whole idea of distractions, and like how in Ramadan we become more aware of our distractions. So I think another thing that sometimes gets in the way of doing things is our distractions. So one of the biggest distractions we all have nowadays is our phones. And sometimes when we think about our phone, we don't look at our phone and think distraction. We look at our phone and think, oh, that's my phone. So it's like a disguised distraction, but we often end up wasting a lot of time on our phones. And I think when we waste a lot of time, that we don't have enough time to be productive in a day, or enough time to do the things that we actually need to do. So reduce the number of your distractions as well. The last thing, I think I've kept the absolute best prescription point to last. Now this is something that I read about a few days ago, and I was so inspired by it, and I thought I have to tell people in my surgery about this. And I would like to call this a dhikr walk. So this is something that I'd really like to prescribe this patient. You can write it first on the list so she knows it's the most important. And for all the boys and girls out there, I think this is a fantastic thing that you can do. So we're talking about our physical bodies and how we need to recharge and look after our physical bodies, but our spiritual bodies need to be recharged as well. And in Ramadan, you feel at your best when your physical and your spiritual bodies are like balanced and they're at the same level. So one thing that you can do is go on a dhikr walk. So we know, mashallah, fresh air is some of the best things that we can give our body. It's the best thing that we can do. It freshens us up, it makes us feel more awake, And it helps us appreciate nature a lot more as well, which we can say alhamdulillah for, gratitude garden. But another thing that we can incorporate into our walks is some dhikr. So one thing that a lot of the boys and girls might have, but if you don't have, inshallah, you can look to maybe order online or buy, is like a little like finger counter that you can like count how much like dhikr you've done. And inshallah, one thing that you could do is go on a dhikr walk. So go on a walk. It could be in your house, it could be outside. I would recommend outside though if the weather is nice. And take your counter or take your tasbih, and with every sort of breath that you take or every step that you walk, do a little bit of dhikr. So if you're walking, say Allahu Akbar, or Subhanallah, Subhanallah, and do a little bit of dhikr. So while you're looking after your physical body, at the same time you are looking after and you're giving like nutrients to your spiritual body as well. And inshallah, not only will that make you feel better, inshallah that will increase your good deeds like beyond compare. Like we already know, we've talked about it, how our good deeds are multiplied so many times in Ramadan. And if you bring dhikr into your walks, or dhikr when you are preparing iftar, when you're chopping up fruit or veg, if you bring dhikr into your daily life, inshallah you will feel so much better.
So that way you get the best of both, don't you? You get
best of both worlds.
Physically you're better, and spiritually and emotionally as well.
Exactly. So all there, inshallah, for the taking. And I hope, inshallah, that has benefited, first of all, this patient who's come to the clinic, but also all of you boys and girls who are out there who might be going through the same thing as this. So Jazakallah khair for your time, boys and girls, and inshallah I will see you again on Ramadan with the Rafis. This was Dr. Dean, and thank you for coming to my spiritual surgery.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor, and I think we have learned quite a lot from what you've told us. We've got so much more insight on how we should take care of ourselves during this Ramadan, which I think is very, very, very good. So now we're going to go on to my segment, and it is the Did You Know segment. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with my segment, it's just where I tell you a really cool fact, maybe something that you've never heard before, something that's new to you, and you can, inshallah, go and pass that on to tell someone a new fact that you've learned. So you can go to your dad, go to your mum, go to your sister, go to your brother. I always say sister because you know how us, we always go, oh, go tell your sister, because I only have sisters, and I keep forgetting people have brothers, and I was like, we should probably say, go tell your sister, go tell your brother. So you can tell your brothers as well if you want. But I'll give you a little fact that you can pass on to someone, and inshallah I'll relate it to Islam in some sort of cool way. So today I have a really good fact for you all today. I said today twice there, didn't I? Today I have a really good fact for you all today. And the fact is that there are no words in the English language that rhyme with the word orange, silver, or purple. And that's only 3 of them, but there's more words that don't have any rhyming words in the English language. And if you think about it, the English language... I'm trying
to think of them, but I really can't.
Exactly. There's so many words in the English language, and you have so many different rhyming words. But these are 3 that I've picked out, but there's a wee bit more than that. So orange, silver, and purple. And see, when I read that, I was thinking to myself, I was like, purple? What rhymes with purple? I was like, gurple, nurple, jerple. And I was like, they're just not real words. So I was like, I've tried it.
You can make up a word, but it's not really the same thing.
So me and Amna have actually tried it. We've tried to make up words. We've tried to see. We're like, oh, that's not true. Surely there's something out there that rhymes with orange. There's not. We've tried, haven't we? And we can't find anything. Even silver, I tried for silver and I can't find anything. But if you can, I don't know, make up a new word, I don't know, find a new word that rhymes with it, please do let us know. And the reason I've told you about this is a lot of the times we know about rhyming words and how it's used in poetry and how it's used in the English language just to make things sound really nice and etc, etc. But the reason I'm telling you this is because at the time of the Prophet Sallallahu, and at the time where the Quran was revealed, poetry was like a really, really hot topic. You could say something that everyone used to do. It was just like the thing at that time. And it was a really big thing. It was really popular. Like everyone loved, they would write poetry, they would tell each other, they would like pass on their poetry and write it for one another. And it was a really big thing at that time. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala released the Quran, or revealed it is the proper word, he revealed it in such a way that it was written quite poetically. And the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala done this was because if everyone at that time was so familiar with poetry, he thought that if the Quran was written in a poetic manner, that people would understand it far better. And I think that is such a thing that you've never thought about before. Like,
I never thought of that.
Yeah, sometimes you do read the Quran and you're like, oh, this kind of rhymes a little bit. It's got like a nice rhythm to it, and that is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent it down at a time where poetry was very, very big, very, very prominent at that time. So that's your fact for today.
Just there, sorry, when you were talking about like rhyming and stuff, I just remember you spoke about like how you want to try and complete like your memorisation of Surah Waqi'ah.
Yeah, I did.
And I remember when you would recite Surah Waqi'ah, and Surah Waqi'ah is like really like rhythmical as well. Like there's the ayahs
all
like
end in like the similar ways,
with each other, and there's so many other surahs as well. And I think that's why like things like Tarawih were so enjoyable. Like although Tarawih was long, like especially at the start of Ramadan when you have to go through all the different juz, but I think it makes you like appreciate the Quran a lot more, like when you begin to hear all the rhyming ayahs and stuff, and you think about, because like that's something that a lot of us probably didn't even know, that poetry was such a big thing.
Especially because we don't speak Arabic.
Yeah,
or it's like
exactly.
Maybe someone out there, maybe one of you do speak Arabic and you know it, but because our Arabic isn't ingrained into how we talk, so when you're reading the Quran, sometimes you don't think, oh, this is poetry. It's like written in a poetic way.
Exactly.
And just there, that's why I decided to add it in, because I thought it was something really cool.
Or sometimes when the Quran's translated into English, we lose the poetry of it, like it's lost in translation, and you can only really appreciate it or hear it when you're listening to the Arabic. So I think that's fantastic.
So that's your 3 words for today: orange, silver and purple that don't have any rhyming words. But if you can find other words that don't have any rhyming words, that would be very, very cool. And if you could figure that out without having to look it up, I had to look these ones up, but if you can do it without looking them up, that would be really, really awesome.
Definitely.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. I think that leads us swiftly on to Fatima. Fatima, what are you going to talk to us about today then?
Okay, so I'm going to speak about my favourite segment, which is Steps to Jannah. So I'm going to have a little recap of the last good deed that we spoke about, which was replying to the adhan. So I just think the main point about that is when you're listening to the adhan, especially for Maghrib, when you're just about to break your fast, you shouldn't just be timing it and saying, oh, it's been on for so long, when's it going to end, when can I have my samosa? But you should respect it, you should reply to it, you should make a very special dua after it, because I think there was a hadith I shared last time, and the Prophet said that if you make a dua after you hear the adhan, then your wish or whatever you make dua for will be granted.
Subhanallah.
So the good deed for today is to go one day without complaining.
Subhanallah. Now, we were kind of talking about this yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that, like, some days are fine, and you feel fine, and you feel great, but other days, you don't know why. Just things don't go right, and you just, you don't, like, you just want to complain about everything, but you're telling us not to complain.
That is the good deed for today, and I know myself it's really hard. I should probably count how many times I complain in one day. It's probably over 1,000. But I feel like this ties in really well with the next segment, which is Gratitude Garden, because we're going to come up with 30 things that we're grateful for, but that's not even a fraction of all the things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us and that we should be grateful for. So if you're going to complain about something like what your mom has made for iftar, if she's not made your favourite samosas, then just think to yourself, at least I have an iftar, at least I have something to break my fast with, and say alhamdulillah and be grateful for it.
And I think, like, just what you were saying there, if you take complaining, like, out of your vocabulary, or if you make an effort not to complain, you begin to see more of your blessings as well. Like you were saying just there, like, if you initially felt really angry that, like, mum didn't make your favourite samosas, if you take that complaint out of it and you think, do you know what, and you look at it in a different way, like we were saying, like, about the whole lockdown thing, we want to look at it in a positive way. So even with this, if we begin to change how we look at things and look at things in a lot more positive light, then inshallah it will help us, first of all, reduce how much we complain, and second of all, appreciate what we have a lot more as well. And I think in Ramadan, sometimes, although we shouldn't, we tend to complain more, because we're like, oh, I'm hungry or I'm tired or how long is there left till iftar? Like that becomes part of our vocabulary. So inshallah, we're all going to try, and we hope the boys and girls as well. You all try to go one day, minimum one day, inshallah, without complaining.
And just to finish my segment, I have a really good ayah from Surah Yusuf, ayah 86, and it says, I only complain of my suffering and my grief to Allah. So if you do want to complain, don't just say it out loud. Go sit on the prayer mat, go sit on the janmas, make dua, like talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about it, and that'll make you feel better.
Like, sometimes it's hard, and when we're saying, just cut out complaining, like
Altogether.
all together,
Yeah.
it can be hard to do that because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, but like I just
You're
like sometimes you
tired.
have to.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to do it to get it out. So that's really good that you were saying that you can. There's better ways that you can let out this anger. There's better ways that you can let out the frustration. If you're angry about something, or if you want advice about something, just go straight to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is very, very good.
Definitely.
Perfect. Jazakallah khair, Fatima. So inshallah, now we are on to our last segment of the show, and that is the Gratitude
Garden. Okay, so assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Amina, and my segment, the best segment, is Gratitude Garden, where basically what we do is we take one thing that we are grateful for every single day in the month, and inshallah we're going to make a full beautiful garden out of these things. So what we've done so far is we've said that we are grateful for our family and we are grateful to be Muslim. So subhanallah, we already have two things that we're extremely grateful for, and today I have another very important one. So I want you all to join in with me, get out your little gardens and get some flowers as well. Like I said before, you can either print one out or draw one yourself. I've already drawn mine and coloured it in as well, and I've decorated it actually today with some little dots on the petals as well, just to change it up a little bit.
Oh, that's so good. And I think the thing that we're talking about today that we're going to be grateful for is a really important one, and it's something that ties in so well with today's climate. And I know maybe some of us, I know I am a little bit, sometimes we're sick about hearing about coronavirus. We're like, oh, it's everywhere, it's like ruining everything, and a lot of the times we're like, I know like sometimes like my parents and my sisters and you guys know that they love to watch the news. Like they watch it all the time.
All
right?
the time.
All the time. And sometimes you're just sitting and you're hearing it for like the 10th time today, and you just get so annoyed. You're like, oh, I've heard about it so much. And you just want it to stop. You want it to take it off. You want to watch something else. You want to do something else. However, today, when we're talking about our gratitude garden, we're talking about something that's very important, and it ties in very well with the climate and everything that's happening just now. So I know a lot of people are just thinking like, oh, you don't want to catch the virus. You want to be as safe as you can. And today, we're going to be grateful for our health, and we're going to be grateful for the fact that we are so healthy and that we can not only just, like, I know because coronavirus affects your lungs, so the fact that we're just breathing just now is something that we can really be grateful for, and we can breathe unaided, which is very, very good.
I also think that ties in really well with the topic that we had today.
Oh
With
yeah,
Rafi,
exactly.
Sallam, when he got his health taken away from him, he got weaker, that we should be grateful that we can breathe, we can eat, we can walk, we can talk.
Plus we have to remember that although the Prophet Alayhi wasn't complaining or anything, it was still a very difficult struggle. It was very tough for him, and we're so grateful and blessed that we're so healthy and we're so...
Can I chip in? Sorry,
Yeah,
another
no,
little
go
thing
for it,
I
go for it.
remembered. There's another, I believe it's a hadith of the Prophet Sallam, and it says, make use of 5 things before 5. And it talks about how you should, like, when, for example, like when we're younger, we don't appreciate like the free time we have, and we're taught that we should appreciate that and use that for, like, to make us better Muslims basically. And one of the things mentioned in that hadith is your health, and to make use of your good health before you get unwell. And sometimes it only takes us to get unwell to realise like how much of a blessing our health actually is.
Yeah, exactly. So seeing sometimes if you're just like it's a little cold and you have like a stuffy nose, or your eyes keep watering, or like something like that, you can get really annoyed and you're like, oh, I can't breathe normally, I can't do this, my legs are sore, I'm aching. But before that, you wouldn't even think twice about it. You're like, oh, I'm breathing, it's just a normal thing.
It's a normal thing,
And sometimes we forget to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the normal things that we have, and that's what when we talk about taking something for granted, that's just us thinking that, oh, it's already there. Like, we shouldn't have to be thankful for it because it's something that's so common that they do all the time. And sometimes you can overlook or like not pay close attention to these things, which I think I'm guilty of doing sometimes. And I think the fact that we have a gratitude garden just shows us that we should really be quite thankful for these things. And I think today we can focus specifically on our health. So make sure that today, boys and girls and everyone watching, that today you're specifically very thankful for your health, which I think is a very good thing.
Definitely. Okay, so I've got my flower over here and I've just stuck on the little toothpick at the back, and we're going to add that into our beautiful little garden so far.
I can't wait to see what it looks like at the
I
end.
know, I'm so
Because I was just
excited.
looking at it now in the cameras, and it just looks so nice already, and there's only 3 of them
So
there,
good.
so I'm like
Subhanallah.
waiting for the rest of them. It looks so cool.
I know, exactly. Inshallah, times that by 10 and we'll have, like, it'll look like it's like we've literally extracted like a patch from someone's like
from our
actual
garden.
garden, just like that size of a patch, mashallah, subhanallah.
SubhanAllah.
So all of these things, alhamdulillah, I think we didn't really mean it, but a lot of our things today tied into one another. Alhamdulillah, I mean, that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, we can only plan so much, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. So alhamdulillah, we are actually getting near to the end of our show. So I think it's a good point for us to have like a quick summary, reflection of what we've spoken about today. So if anyone's just joined us, it would be a good point for them to see, like, is it worth me going back and watching their show for today or not? It's always worth it, we know that, but just in case you're wondering. So today we started off our show talking about Prophet Ayyub Alayhi Sallam. So we're saying that our new theme for this week is to talk about not only Prophet stories, but the lessons we can learn from the Prophet stories, inshallah. So we talked about Ayyub Alayhi Salam's story and also what we can learn from it. So can anyone just quickly recap what kind of things can we learn from Ayyub Alayhi Salam's story?
I think one of the most important ones is that whatever you're going through, whatever test you're going through, you should always be grateful and thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And just the fact that you were talking about the good deed, the step to Jannah for today, so our good deed for the day, was to not complain for the whole day. So we know that Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, when he was going through his struggles, when he was going through his hard times, he made it a point to always speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about his complaints or anything that he had wrong, and he wouldn't just become ungrateful and start
Moan about it all day,
like
yeah.
moaning and everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, really good one, that he would know that it was a test from Allah, and he would be thankful for the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing him, and so that he can show that what he's made of, basically.
Perfect. Have you got a quick one, Amna?
Yeah, I was just going to say that even if you are going through a difficult time, it's always going to get better. It's not going to be like that forever. Just pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's all you can do. Have faith and stay strong, and inshallah it will get better.
Perfect. So Jazakallah khair, boys and girls, for tuning in to another show. This was Ramadan with the Rafis on Ramadan TV. Jazakallah khair as always for viewing our show, and inshallah we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you learned a lot from it, inshallah, and we hope also that you're all staying home and staying safe, and inshallah we also hope that you will join us for the next episode. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.